Hello and welcome to Autocar India, where you get the best dose of automotive news. And I'm not only talking about car reviews, we talk about everything in the automotive industry. And today's discussion is something like that. During COVID, we realized that we had a little bit of extra time. And so we chose to do a series for all you people out there that write to us very often asking, how can I be a part of this industry? I think one of the most popular episodes on that series was the one with Mr. Pratap Bose, who told us about automotive design and how you could be an automotive designer. And I think till today he uses that episode to talk to students. So we're going to continue this conversation with the Chief Design and Creative Officer of Mahindra and Mahindra Auto Division, Pratap Bose, today to talk more on being an automotive designer, how difficult, how easy it is. But let's begin with that basic question. Pratap, in today's world, unlike the time when you went to design school, there were a few design schools. We have so many design schools, so many designers being spawned. Are they all valid? And do you find that all of them are putting out a certain caliber of designer that you require, or is it still lacking?
So Renuka, thanks for coming to the Mahindra India Design Studio. It's a place we love, and yeah, since we last spoke in the peak of the pandemic, in fact the world has changed, and we are all opened up again, and everyone's sort of motoring along to use the pun. Renuka, it's very personal to me, the whole question around automotive design, education, the pipeline of designers coming through. We have as much a responsibility in creating new design work as we do in ensuring that the design ecosystem and the education ecosystem in the country and of course overseas is really, as you put it, ready for the challenges of today and tomorrow. And like you rightly said, in the 90s, when I was studying design, automotive design wasn't even a specialty. And today it is, and it's taught in many, many colleges and universities. But yes, with proliferation and growth in numbers comes somewhere a decline in quality. And I think we are at this real tipping point where if we create too many designers or too many automotive designers, somewhere quality will suffer, and we are seeing that. So, it's a very tricky balancing act between industry, education and students, of course, and it's something that we must address in this country.
But where do you think the gaps are? Like, I'm sure that, yes, the colleges want to address, that there are different fields out there, and that's interesting because, I remember having commerce, science or arts, and we could not expand beyond that. And so now there are different career alternatives, and this is great. But like you're saying, it needs to be done right. And what, in your opinion, needs to change for that?
So, Renuka, if I put it simplistically, automotive design today is still seen as a very glamorous profession. It's seen as, you make a couple of very fancy, glossy sketches, and it's also very exterior design driven. The reality, however, is that there's, as you know, moments of glamour, I admit, when we are presenting our cars to the world, etc. But that's really, truly the tip of the iceberg. And below that, the things that people don't see is the intense amount of dedication, hard work, passion, staying power that you need to really put something like this or indeed any product into production. What they don't also see is the number and diversity of design professions. If I stick to design, in our design studio, we have everyone from exterior designers, interior designers, clay modelers, digital modelers, modeling managers, program managers, HMI designers, color materials and fabrics. So they don't see the number of professions that are actually involved in creating automotive design. So the world outside is limited to seeing automotive design as, this glamorous profession. Like I said, if you look at the movie world, making a film, people will look at the actors, they know there's a director somewhere, and there's perhaps a cinematographer and a sound designer or music designer, but there are hundreds of others involved in creating that cinematic product. the same thing here. So I just wish the design schools, I know the pressures they face. There are some commercial pressures to increase student numbers, etc. But they could also look at what the industry needs, the diversity of profession it needs. You know, like I said, right from graphic designers to clay modelers and everything in between, and focus a little bit on those as well. Because the overwhelming number of portfolios that we get to see, Renuka, are from the two streams of design, which is interior and exterior design. And because those are limited roles, like all roles in any industry, there's almost no space left for anyone else, you know, and then you have to therefore question.
So what are those key focus areas that you think students could go out and look at and think that, okay, this is where I could excel and I can be a part of, you know, Mahindra Design or whichever company it may be, but I don't have to just be able to sketch.
Correct. So, you know, absolutely right. So now, let's say you're a graphic designer, you know, but you want to get into the automotive design world. There's plenty of opportunities, not only in how we design our badges and our logos and how things are put around the product, but also in the human-machine interface. You know, because that's all about typeface, it's about sizing, it's about colors, fonts, of course, interaction, all of that. So there is an area for you. Now, if that graphic designer says, oh, I want to be a car sketcher, then you have that problem. So the most acute area of problem I see, Renuka, is people who are in their engineering education. I get a lot of messages from students who say, sir, I'm in the second or third year of engineering and I don't really, you know, and I really want to be an automotive designer. So should I switch now? And the first thing I tell them, you know, please be a great engineer rather than an average or a poor designer, because you will not make it. You know, the stakes are extremely high. You know, so from the hundreds of applications we get, I think the top 0.5% will have a chance to get in to any automotive studio worldwide. You know, it's that tough. You know, this is, you're talking about.
So the barrier is very, very high.
High, yeah. The barrier in those, what we say, the traditional design, exterior interior design. But there are other areas. So if you're a brilliant mechanical engineer, for example, you know, we have a function in design called studio engineering, like you just mentioned. It's a function that sits between, you know, our technical engineering teams and design, and it's that go-between. Because sometimes we will say, look, we want the door to open this way. Engineers will say, maybe it's not possible. The studio engineer will try and find the way to do it. So that's a great place to be, and we don't find enough people there, for example.
If you were to tell students that, hey, you know, this is where I'm finding people lacking, what were the key areas that you would say?
Yeah. So I feel a prerequisite for the two traditional streams of automotive design, interior and exterior, is to have incredible artistic capability, right? You either have that or you don't. There's a sense of taste and all of that. That doesn't mean that if you haven't learned drawing or you weren't an art student and today you happen to be in engineering or you know, any other field, it doesn't mean you don't have a role. The point is that it's a multidisciplinary area. You know, just I told you in design, there are probably 10 different internal to design streams that we have to all work together. And outside design, there's marketing, there's, you know, the technology group, the legal aspects of automotive design, right? You have new standards, new pedestrian and crash standards, you have environmental standards, you can be a paint technologist, you can be a lighting specialist. There's so many areas, so people shouldn't treat this as a, you know, sort of black or white, that, oh, I'm not a designer, so I have no chance in the automotive world.
No, you highlighted that, but I'm asking you specific to you.
Oh, okay.
When you go out and you hire, where are the holes? Where are the gaps for you? Where do you find, like, you know, for me to find, everybody's an automotive enthusiast.
Yes.
But when they come down to sit down to it, it's very hard for me to find someone who's diligent, who's willing to start at the bottom, work to the... So these are the things that I would like in someone. What is it that you look for, A, in the kind of person that you're hiring? you know, like a lot of people don't realize, it has to be a big teamwork, a big lot of working with everyone, learning to get a lot of no's before you get one yes.
Yeah.
You know?
So Renuka, I'm sitting here today, literally representing the 200 odd people we have in, you know, Mahindra Design. And that's a position of privilege. But believe me, I wouldn't be here if they weren't here. It's as simple as that. So there's no Pratap Bose who designs the car. In fact, not at all. It's actually the other 199 who put this stuff together. And as you therefore said, you know, hard work. It's not easy. A product takes typically 40 to 48 months to develop. That means you're doing that for day in and day out, you know, so half the time is design. So for 24 odd months, you have to stick to that every millimeter of what you want to translate on the road. So it takes that resilience. And like you said, there are lots of knocks along the way. And, you know, they're part of the game, right? There'll be a costing issue, there could be a legal issue, there could be a technical issue. So how do you, you know, have the strength, the longevity and the resilience to get through that? That's one thing we look for. The second thing is teamwork. You know, this is not, even as it may seem, you know, it's a place for individuals to come and shine. Anyone who tells you that one person has designed the car is either not from the business or is lying, because it's not possible. It's not like the 70s and 60s where you had a carrozzeria who would draft the car and someone would go and make it, you know, by hand-beaten panels, etc. This is a intensely team-oriented sport. And because at some points you hand over, it's like a relay, right? You hand over to another member in your team and they have to run with you and hand over to the next and to the next, etc. So those interactions, those interfaces are so important. And if you're not a team player, it's very hard to make it in this business.
And in your area of, you know, when you are hiring students, like you said, there's plenty out there. You said that the focus you get is interior and exterior. So yes, that pool is full and you have lots to choose from. Where are the areas where you find it hard to find people?
Excellent. One is design project management. This is a phenomenal area for people who are, you know, very diligent, very ordered, very organized, perhaps from a, you know, a project management background anyway, because design project management is also one of those areas that you have to ensure as a DPM that all these other creative, so-called creative groups within design are sticking to the beat. You know, the timing of a program, the cost of a program. It's a hard job. It's a thankless job. It's a hard job, but when they see a product on the road, you know, they can feel very proud. So design project management is one area we find almost nobody. We have to sort of internally grow some people. The second area is what I call studio engineering, because like I said, the choice is so black and white in education today. You're either a, you know, pure left brain engineer or you're a right brain designer. There is this whole brain job, role called studio engineering, which is absolutely fantastic, and we almost again find nobody there. Clay modelers in India, it's a particular challenge. It's a very young profession. A lot of people think that with the arrival of CAD, CAM, you know, clay models will disappear. We haven't managed yet.
Like magazines won't go.
Yeah. In fact, you're sitting in front of, you know, what was a clay model only recently. Clay modelers in India is a particular challenge because where do they come from? Do they come from a traditional design background? Do they come from sculpture? I remember in the early days, we would hire and train, you know, clay sculptors who would make murtis.
Correct.
Because they had that artistic ability and form.
And though this looks like large surfaces, nobody realizes the kind of finesse that actually goes into this detailing.
Yeah, yeah. So these three areas I would say are very challenging. In the computer modeling area, there's actually lots of people because they're coming from the gaming world. They come from, you know, even as students, they create a lot of good computer modeling, visualization, films. But the three areas is DPM, design program management, clay modeling, and studio engineering.
Great. So there you are, kids. You know which ones to really aim for and go for. But tell me something. I mean, you guys are one of the few guys that have a design studio in India and hire out of here. There are very few still. Why is there that gap? Why are so many, maybe, you know, you see our engineers going all over the world, you see our doctors going all over the world. Why are automotive designers not, you know, why isn't there more focus for automotive design in India?
Yeah, I agree, Renuka. You know, we are the what, third or fourth largest market in the world, and I would say we have probably three and a half real OEM level studios in India for passenger vehicles. On the two-wheeler side, including startups, etc., I would say there are another 3 or 4. But you know, I would cap it at sort of 10, 12 real studios, what I call end-to-end studios. You know, right from sketch to Class A surface release, and that's incredible. I mean, you know, we have the largest manufacturers or OEMs globally here in our market, and very few of them have, you know, acknowledged or established a design presence. You know, and it may sound counterintuitive, you know, coming from Mahindra or one OEM to tell other OEMs to please come and open design studios in India, you know, because it's competition. But that's the only way the profession can grow. Yeah. You know, why do you have such a evolved design ecosystem in Korea, in Japan, in Germany, in Italy, in the UK? It's because there's a concentration of creative studios. Correct. China's, you know, becoming that. In fact, you know, the Chinese government, I think, mandated that if you were entering the Chinese market, you had to establish a local R&D. You had to create a new brand. You know, these were some things they did which has led to a explosion of good Chinese designers. You know, and you know, we need to open this up to other OEMs. They have to recognize the creativity here.
What do you think is the hesitation? Because the OEMs definitely recognize the manufacturing capability. Yeah. They definitely recognize R&D, yeah, but it kind of hasn't proliferated to design. And where do you think, you know, as someone who's worked globally and in a lot of different places, where do you think that hesitation has been for design coming to India?
Yeah, funnily, you know, Renuka, we've had some very good Indian designers who've now recently, or let's say for the last 7 or 8 years, have managed to go abroad and work in some of the best companies. But the reverse hasn't happened. The companies haven't come here. And I feel there's somewhere a lack of maybe awareness of the levels of creativity and skill. Yes, there is a lack of experience, you know, because it's a young profession in India, but there's no lack of creativity. Yeah. And, you know, and Indian designers will understand our market the best. We have seen many missteps by not only global OEMs, but and Indian OEMs. You know, we don't get every product right. But I think if you have some Indian designers or some talent in that market, or designers from that market, you are more likely to create a more successful product. You know, Brazil has design studios, yeah, from all OEMs, because it's a big market. Correct. You know, but they all have design studios.
So that's a space where I hope that you make a dent and make more people realize that they have to come over here. But I think, yeah, more and more it is important, because I think in this whole transition to EV, yeah, where the performance platform is becoming so close together, yeah, I think design, and when I say design, I don't only mean exterior and interior. I mean the functional part, yeah, of it as well is going to be probably the differentiator between manufacturers in the long term. So a lot is going to rest with the design head, with the design department of a company. And do you think that that's going to be the most important part of the future? And so for young talent out there, is that the area to focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. There's 2 areas which are potential, right? So one is, of course, electrification. Yeah. And that covers, you know, all manufacturers. It comes with its set of unique challenges. And I think design flourishes, Renuka, when the challenges are the most severe. Correct. You know, I always say that. You give someone a blank sheet of paper. It's very nice to have a blank sheet of paper, but they wouldn't know where to start. Correct. But if you give, design is truly one of those disciplines that under immense creative pressure creates the most creativity. And I think, the new areas, like you said, aerodynamics, safety, legislation, these all come together to literally shape what you're going to see in the future. There might be the advent, not in our market, certainly not, in the near future, with autonomy. When you have autonomy, when you don't need a steering wheel, or when you don't need to look out, when your car won't crash into another car, you don't need a bumper, you don't need windows. I mean, what will that design look like, So that's another area I would love students to try and start exploring. And the third, let's say, push is going to come from the startup world. I think, again, students and people who want to be in automotive design shouldn't only look at the traditional OEMs. I think the startups are going to create the real, or at least going to be a part of the revolution. And we are seeing this in two-wheelers. You've seen how the disruption has come actually from startups. And I think globally, we are seeing in automotive as well, startups think a little differently. So it's another lovely area for sort of young designers to explore.
And artificial intelligence, another area where, yes, there are a lot of students focusing on it, but it's also taking away a lot of jobs. How much of that is going to have a play in automotive design in the future?
Yeah, I think, I've been tracking sort of some of AI-generated design for the last 18 odd months, and I must say the progress that's been made is phenomenal. You still, however, do need to create or convert a picture generated by AI into a real product. So you still need that entire process, and you need taste. AI will generate 1,500, 2,000 images in 2 minutes. You still need the taste to be able to judge that. What is appropriate to your brand? What will your customer base understand? How far should it be? So it's like how we judge sketches now, right? The designers will make hundreds of sketches, and then we pick one or two to end up in a final product. That's a combination of many, many human or intelligent humans, coming together. But I would say, on the other hand, please use AI as a tool. When Photoshop came, everyone said markers will disappear. They didn't. When CAD and CAM came, everyone said clay models will disappear. They didn't. The combination is very powerful. Earlier, it used to take us, I would say, 4 weeks to even set up a clay model. We can do it in days now. So it's where and how you use it. And I would invite students to use AI if only to sharpen their sense of taste, their sense of judgment, what would work, what wouldn't. Because that's the skill you'll need when you go in. Yeah.
My last question to you. It's been fascinating, and I could go on talking about this. Since you spoke about time, in earlier days, we found concepts that were way out there. And you would see something that was completely wild, and what would translate into reality would be very little of it. These days, it's become the opposite. When you see the concept, almost 80 or 90% of that translates into what you actually see out on that road. So the responsibility of, concept is not just putting something out there and seeing the reaction. It's actually bringing something out there that is almost real. Yeah. So that time frame has obviously reduced into bringing out the real product. Yeah. How high are those pressures? And how much is a concept expected to be as close to reality?
Yeah. So, Renuka, the way I look at it personally, as someone in design, is that when we do a concept car, it's a bit like a trailer of a film. And the trailer gives you a taste of what's going to come in the film, right? So if you see the trailer and the film is something completely different, the trailer is like a romantic story, let's say, and the film is a sci-fi intergalactic war, that disconnect is just something that people don't get. I always like the trailer to be directly linked to the film. And when we showed, the 5 concepts in August 22 in Banbury, or in August 23 in South Africa, I always briefed the team saying that, please, yes, have that creative freedom to explore, but please make something that is believable, because when we do this product, we don't want to disappoint the customer. You know, it's not, and as you know, a huge amount of investment goes into industrialization of new products. So we have a responsibility actually, both to the company, because you want to show a vision of the future, you know, and that's where a concept car comes, but also to the customer, that they should realize that, oh wow, Mahindra in a couple of years is going to produce this thing and we'll be able to drive it. You know, you build that into their dream, right? You know, when we did the Thar E, for example, you know, the overwhelming number of messages. One guy said, you know, I'm going to sell my house to buy this. I mean, this is literally, I'm quoting verbatim, you know, this is how much it means to people. Now, if I launch a possible Thar E in the future and it looks nothing like the concept, how disappointed will this gentleman be? You know, so having said that, the tools we spoke about earlier, Renuka, today we can go from a clean sheet of paper to a data release to, you know, suppliers, engineering in 24 months. You know, we could never dream of that earlier, and we can only do this because we brought in technology at the right points, using them the right way to speed up the process of automotive design and automotive development as a whole. You can do a lot more simulation, for example. You know, earlier you would drive for millions of miles. You know, literally you would log millions of miles. You can do it for a lot less now, because the computer simulation and the real world simulation, the correlation is stronger. So using technology in the right place for the right thing does save us time.
Great. It's been fascinating talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And like he says, it's always about a dream. You can now dream, and the dream is real, and you know exactly where to go and what to do. We hope you've enjoyed watching this with us.